Welcome to Friends Drift In. This is episode 1, and we're going to talk a little bit about who we are, what we do, homesteading in Appalachia, making commercial jams, preserving food for ourselves, how to cook, how to clean, how to do real life living, actually building a good life in Appalachia. We hope you'll join us as our channel continues to grow.
For old-fashioned recipes and your gardening needs, while sipping on Kentucky bourbon. You sit right back in your big red hat, we're taking rural back from the urban. Listen to the stories of Kentucky proud, share the giggles with all of your friends. You all tuned in to Friends Drift In.
Good morning. It's Joyce and Charlie from Friends Drift In Farm and Homestead. We do food, especially jams and jellies that are Kentucky proud. We are located in the heart of Appalachia, in the mountains. In the mountains where life is slow. Our motto is growing a good life in Appalachia. This is our first attempt at doing a YouTube video. Our aim is to bring our viewers in, thus Friends Drift In, which is a reference to my grandparents' restaurant, which was located on the Ohio River, and had clients drift in not only from the riverside, but also from US 42, which was the main thoroughfare between Cincinnati and Louisville. What we want to do is reach out and talk to you. 2020 has been a really bizarre year, that goes without saying, and we've missed y'all, and this is the way that we can kind of reach out and connect and kind of tell you what we're doing here in Appalachia, and we want to hear what you're doing too, and we hope to be kind of a beacon for encouragement and to stay brave and to stay bold. That's my word for the year. I'm going to be bold. I grew up in northern Kentucky. I went to the University of Kentucky and fell in love with the slug. And my life has never been the same, but we ended up moving into the mountains, and I thought it was crazy, and it was a big culture shock for me. We've been here almost 30 years. A really big culture shock for me. But the crazy thing is that Charlie was into genealogy.
That's true. You know, my family's been here in the mountains for almost 200 years. 1795, 96 is when they moved into eastern Kentucky. And, you know, we had talked about growing up in eastern Kentucky. My grandparents, both sides, were raised during the Depression. So we've learned a lot of things about preserving, canning, cooking, and really just making do with very little.
Right. I think that's our history. I think we both were solidly middle class growing up. But the genealogy part of it is that, you know, Charlie would drag me to these graveyards and these courthouses and all over eastern Kentucky chasing his ancestors. One day I got particularly bored because my ancestors, I thought, were in northern Kentucky and Ohio. And we were at the Floyd County Library, and there was my great-great-grandfather. And so it comes to find out that my great-great-great-grandfather founded Paintsville, Kentucky. My great-great-great-grandfather on the other side was the postmaster in the Floyd County. So in a way, coming home to the mountains, maybe they called me.
Maybe
I just got sucked by you.
Maybe so, that's right. Well, you know, if you have a heart for the mountains, you're raised here, you're always going to come back. You know, I moved away to UK, decided probably wasn't coming home, you know. And that's
we had a good business going.
Had good things going down there, but mother got sick, we moved back. And that's another thing you'll find out about people in this part of Appalachia is they call us clannish, and maybe we are. But family is the first thing, and I was raised in a family where if someone got sick, someone died, you took care of them. If someone passed away, they left children, you took care of their children. My grandfather raised one of his grandsons, or my mother raised her granddaughter Joyce and I have helped raise that granddaughter, and that's just kind of what we do here. It's all about family, and it's all about keeping traditions alive as well.
So we farm on a 12-acre farm that is located on the Big Sandy on Johns Creek. Big Sandy used to be called the Tottery River. That was part of the Tutelo, Native Americans who were here before the Pinsons and the Leslies and the Friends. But the soil there, the soil there is very sandy. We do have to do a lot of amendments with it. We started out, we had always had a family garden.
Right.
We had a lot of illnesses in the family, and we fell to being caretakers for a while, and the gardens languished. And then my nephew came along, and he was born a preemie, so we've always kind of petted him, and he's very special. But there was a day that kind of solidified what Friends Inn was going to be.
Before Friends Drift In was even thought about as a organization, Jacob Branham, our nephew, picked up something and said it comes from the grocery store. So
It was a piece of fruit.
I think it was a tomato, actually.
Maybe it was.
It
It was
a
a
tomato
tomato.
or a cucumber, because cucumbers are his favorite.
Cucumbers are the big deal with him.
And when he picked it up and said, well, this comes from the grocery store, we realized then and there that this just won't do. I mean, you got to know where your food comes from and where it's made and where it's grown. And that's put us back into growing a garden. We grew a family garden for a few years. Then we got into the farmer's market and kind of a commercial side. And that also turned us to another one of Joyce's passions, as well as my family passions, is seed saving.
We are co-founders of the Appalachian Seed Swap, which is held the first Saturday in April. There's a Facebook group, Appalachian Seed Swap, Pikeville, Kentucky. Of course, we don't know how that's going to pan out this year. We had to cancel last year due to the situations around the country. But it is scheduled for the first Saturday in April. And how we got into seed saving, I mean, my grandfather saved seeds. Charlie's daddy saved special seeds that were here on the creek. But what really spurred me was when we started, we said, all right, we've got to start farming enough for the family so that Jake can have the experience of learning how to garden and how to be able to be at least a little sustainable, and that your food doesn't come from the grocery store. It can come from the soil right here, at home. And I went through, I'd always just kind of hobby gardened, and I went through the Gurney catalog, and there was no cushaw seeds. Well, this had me frantic, because if you don't know what a cushaw is a winter squash. It grows, about 20 or 30 pounds. It's large. It's got a big crook neck. It's got stripes on it. I used to say my grandfather had his farm stand, and he would line up all the cushaws. I would say it looked like a bunch of angry geese coming at you, and it scared me when I was really little. But I couldn't find cushaw seeds. And so in this frantic, what has happened to the cushaw seeds? My background is agriculture, so I couldn't fathom that I couldn't find cushaw seeds. And so that kind of led us to saving seeds and seeking out seeds that are special to the holler, the creek, here in our area, and to start saving seeds and connecting with other seed savers like Bill Best.
Bill Best, right?
Bill Best, Jim Wyatt up in Indiana, Ben Cohen up in Michigan, Karen Golden, Linda Bludnick, so many others, and saving those seeds, and not just saving the seeds, but telling the story of the seeds.
And that's kind of the thing too. First thing about heirloom seeds is the taste and the flavor, because back in those days, that's what people grew them for.
Right. It's not always the most productive. If you have an heirloom seed, it may not produce when you have its plant and it yields its harvest. It may not be as productive as a hybrid. But you got to decide: do you want quantity or do you want quality? And so heirloom seeds fill in that gap of taste. Slow Food Arc of Taste is someplace that you can find some of the best suggestions for heirloom seeds. Now, of course, there are a lot more goes into it as far as growing in your area.
Yes,
In your temperate climate.
and we recently, about 5 years ago, got a high tunnel, which is an unheated greenhouse. And that's a good way to grow like heirloom tomatoes, especially because that's one of the problems with heirloom tomatoes is they're really susceptible to outside influences. Too much water, too much this, not enough of that. Well, you can control that environment and you get a much better tomato. And like, if you've never had a really good, fresh, one of my favorites, the Cherokee purple tomato, just the rich, sweet flavor is just amazing.
There's nothing like a tomato that is warming from the garden and just biting into it and letting that juice drip down your chin. And now that's glory. Now, Jake would not agree. Jake would say that the best thing out of the garden is get his Boy Scout knife out and peel a cucumber and eat it right in the field. But heirloom tomatoes or heirloom vegetables in general, better taste because if they've been grown in an area for a long time, they're more acclimated to the soil and the climate and the temperatures. You can save them. If you have a hybrid seed, they can't be saved. They will not grow true. They may grow a plant, but they will not grow true to the parent. Whereas an heirloom seed, if you have prevented it from cross-pollinating, it will grow true.
And you just don't understand so much about what's out there, like green beans. Everybody wants the white half runner. Everybody wants the cut short, or they're not cut short, but the lake. Blue lakes, and
to us that just doesn't cut it. Now, even here, a lot of people like the half runners, but no. We like
the early white harvest that we've got from a family of friends of ours. The Howards has been in their family for 75, 80 years. Been on Johns Creek for over 100, we think.
It grows very similar, but it is not the same as the white Hastings beans, which is one that Chef Sean Brock touts in his books. And then we've got some other ones that are just native to the creek. You know. We like pole beans, we like bush beans, we like lots of beans. We are the bean nation.
Yeah, we do. And our favorite of the pole beans has got to be the rattlesnake bean. It's a beautiful bean. It's about 6 inches long, got these purple stripes on it. And to me, you get the best of both worlds. You get that pure green hull that everybody likes with the white half runners and all that, but you get a little brown seed that gives you a great pot liquor with it.
Right, a pot liquor, that's the goo that comes after you cook them down. So part of the thing with Charlie and I is we not only grow as a Kentucky proud, Appalachian proud producer with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, we also, we preserve our food. We preserve food for ourselves.
Yes.
And then we also have a commercial line of jams. We have 12 flavors at this point.
At this point, we've got 12
flavors. Our claims to fame, probably our most popular, are our strawberry moonshine and our blackberry bourbon. And then the pepper jams. We do several different pepper jams. We do that at Whitesburg, Kentucky, which is right in the shadow of Pine Mountain, which is the second highest mountain in
the state of Kentucky, right.
Whitesburg is an interesting little artsy town where the production facility is managed by Mountain Comprehensive Care. It is an old gymnasium, old
high school kitchen. Yes.
High school kitchen. And there's a beautiful dining area off of it. And a crazy trivia fact is that if you looked at it from an aerial view, the architect made it look like the Starship Enterprise.
The dining room and the old library are circular, and in the kitchen and entries are a square added to it, and it's amazing to look at it from the aerial views.
So as we do this podcast, we will be setting a special day. We haven't decided exactly what our routine is going to be, but it'll be on a morning. Once a week we'll be doing this podcast, and we will be going back and forth. We will talk about, this is how you home can something. This is how we do it. And what tips can you learn from a commercial producer? We'll also talk about, all right, is it time to plant? and talk about there is so many people that are rushing to the mountains of eastern Kentucky and Tennessee and saying, oh, we're shucking the city life and hey, we're going to be homesteaders and be totally self-sufficient. And we're here to tell you,
it's tough to do, but it's possible.
but you're not going to do it your first year. And I think people come in with such high hopes, and then they get discouraged, and we don't want that to happen. If you are committed to building a homestead, we want you to be successful.
Well, and the thing too is, there's a lot of skills that you need to learn that I was blessed to grow up with. My grandfather was born in 1896, so I've got a lot of the old time skills as
He's
far
a throwback.
Yeah, but those are skills that have to be learned, and I was blessed to learn them from a man who learned them from his father, and and back when you walked everywhere and you worked hard, and I hate to, yeah, I'm a throwback. I will put it out that way. We grew up and we preserved our own food. We killed our own meat and did everything right there on the farm.
I grew up a little bit different. My mom was a substitute teacher. My dad a mechanical engineer. My grandparents, both of my grandfathers were carpenters. My one grandmother was stay-at-home and the most perfect homemaker you ever met, and my grandmother friend, who some people call me Little Viola for her, she was a real go-getter. She worked in a corporate, in a piano factory for a while in Cincinnati, caught a Greyhound bus from Warsaw, Kentucky to Cincinnati every day, if you can imagine, which is about 50 miles one way to go to work. And then later, as things progressed, Grandpa, when Dad grew up and got into the Navy, they started a restaurant, and the restaurant was right across the road from where my other grandparents lived. Of course, at the time that hadn't happened, but Mom and Dad sparked, and that's how I came to be, growing up on the Ohio River. So coming from the flatlands to the mountains, at first that was shocking. When it gets dark here, it gets dark because the sun just drops behind the mountain and that's it, And we joke about in the winter time that you have to pipe the sunshine in because there's places where the shadows stay so heavy that it never thaws out. And from a gardening and farming perspective, sometimes we have to plan how we lay our garden out because certain parts of the garden don't get as much daylight time. They stay in the shadows longer. They may not get sun until noon. And so we have to consider that as we're planning our garden. We've both been blessed with I'm an only child, but Charlie's got brothers and sisters. He's kind of in the middle, and
It's a long story. There's 5 of us, and I am either the middle child or I'm the oldest child,
depending on how you look at it. So we've been blessed.
We have.
At the core, we're very social people.
Yes.
We live in a big red barn. We really do, and it's on a hillside, just a big red barn on a hillside. And we built the big red barn so that we could have friends over all the time. Right. We have a 30 by
50
dance floor. And in recent years, that dance floor has been converted into a nursery. We do a lot of our propagating our plants inside, and that's not been really good for my hardwood floors, but it's what we got to work with, and it's been convenient. We have really grown with the high tunnel.
We have. We've learned a lot.
We've learned a lot with that. Where we want to go, what are the things that we want to do in 2021 that might be of interest to you all? Well, we obviously want to talk about seed saving. Yes. We want to talk about, we will be talking a lot about homesteading and skills, simple stuff, things that frustrate me. We have nieces and nephews, and sometimes I get the craziest phone calls. Aunt Joyce, how do I hand wash dishes? And I just want to, okay. Or Aunt Joyce, how do you mix soup beans? Well, soup beans in our family is pinto beans. That's what we call them in Appalachia. And I mean, they're always on the, when Charlie's mom was living, they were always on the stove on the back burner, ready to warm up at any time. Always. Soup beans was always. And if you visited, first thing people say, are you hungry? Have you ate yet?
Yep.
Have you ate yet?
Yep. Grew up, like I say, very small, tight-knit community. As I like to tell people, I didn't know we were poor middle class until I went to college, because everybody here was in the same situation. And it was so safe that you could leave the house at daylight and come back at dark, and nobody worry about their kids. But
something that we really have a heart for, especially in these troubling times, is food security. Call it food sovereignty, if you will. Nobody should go hungry, and everybody should know how to eat and produce their own food. And if they can't do that because they're in an urban climate, even a little balcony garden is a good start. And trying to plan. It's not that we think the world is going to end or the sky is falling, but that's how we grew up.
Yeah, and 2020 brought a lot of that back into focus with the supply chain problems we had early on, when everybody had to switch from restaurant packaging to retail packaging, when the stores were running out of things. I mean, minor difficulties like that. We had beans and cornmeal and stuff put back. We were okay.
We weren't putting back. We weren't in mass quantities, but
we
we've
had enough
always
to go for months.
planned. We live in the floodplain.
Yeah.
There has been times when we have been flooded in for a couple of days. There has been times we live on a hill, and there has been times when the snow has been so deep that the only way you're going to get off the mountain is to put yourself on a sled.
Yeah,
No.
And you never know. It could be sickness. It could be anything that causes you. It doesn't cause you. It just makes it more convenient for you when you walk into the pantry and get food and make it, and not have to leave the house for whatever the reason.
Right. And the same, when we're on the farm, you will see what, we will be doing some videos about what do we keep in our truck. And I mean, you would be surprised what we keep in our truck. And this summer, I think, probably made us more conscious of that. I was working out in the fields really early in the morning. I mean, we started early, and I had drank several bottles of water. And we were picking beans, and we picked more than I wanted to because it looked like a thunderstorm. A thunderstorm was coming, and I was trying to save the seeds. I didn't want my seeds to get wet that I was saving. Plus, I wanted to put some up for canning, and we also dry beans, what they call leather britches down here. So we were, I wanted to get the beans harvested, and I pushed myself a little too hard. Jake was with me, and it got hot. But I had drank water, but I said, I need to sit down for a minute, sit down on the back of the bumper of the old truck, and boom, I went down and passed out. And poor old Jake, he's looking at me, and I'm laying flat in the ground, and I come to, and I said, did I pass out? And Jake, who has a very dry sense of humor, says, apparently, as if it was no big deal. And I said, well, I feel fine. I'm going to get up. I'm going to have my water. I'm going to, I'll put the beans in the truck. We'll go over and get cool, and I'll be fine. And as he's putting the beans in the truck, I went down again. And so there we were, calling Charlie, saying, hey, I think maybe we need to go to the hospital.
Yeah,
So I'm glad that we had some
Yes.
Gatorade in the truck. I'm glad that we had some washcloths that I could kind of cool off as we were traveling back. But what we're going to be talking about, some of the things that are just common sense preparedness. How do you take care of yourself? Because it's not like you can call an Uber and say, hey, come get me, because we live out in the boonies.
Well, that's like bandages. I mean, I've been on the farm and cut myself before and had to use paper towel and black tape for a bandage. I mean, those are things that you need to think about.
So those are the couple of things that as this channel goes forward, we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about life. Charlie and I have a lot of diverse interests. His background is business, mine is agriculture. He's a sportscaster. We're very involved with the University of Pikeville sports programs. They also have an osteopathic school here, which we get really excited about, and also an optometry school. So Pikeville is a small town. It's a really cool little town. Everybody knows everybody. And I guess sometimes it can seem like we're a bunch of busybodies, but you will find that I think we're a very loving town.
I think so. We're from and it's a big region. We want to give a shout out to one of our friends who's also has his YouTube channel, Jared Goforth.
Over at Flutie Lick Homestead. I don't know if it's Flutie Lick Homestead or Flutie Lick Farm. Flutyllick, Flutie Lick. He lives over in Martin County. It's over the mountain from us. But Jared is a young man in an old man's
absolutely.
with an old man's mentality. If you ever read a Foxfire book, you could just throw the Foxfire book away and go hang out with Jared for a while. He's got you covered. He is a wood. He's good with wood. He's good with hog killing. His wife Lakin, is a canning and preserves. And really shows you what real life is in Appalachia. We talk
what
about
real life was in Appalachia.
Yeah, really. He's kind of a throwback, I guess, too, but he don't care. We're proud to know him.
Yeah.
He's a fine picker. He is a musician,
Plays
and sometimes he just picks.
Other
he'll do just break into a little Christmas song or something that just hits him sometimes for his videos.
Right.
But we really enjoy watching him. He's a small channel, but he's growing, and he is definitely worth the watch. He's just a hoot.
Absolutely, great young man.
We also as we continue, I'm sure that there's going to be things that we haven't even thought of that we're going to do in 2020. So as we talk about, what would you like to see from Friends Drift in the farm, the homestead? We'll be doing some cooking videos. I started out, we didn't really talk about that, but while we started out with the family garden and it grew into a commercial garden where we were selling at the farmer's market, during that time I was also doing a blog. We went for a while and did a local cable TV show. That evolved into some speaking gigs. I still do writing for trade magazines from time to time. I've been working on the elusive cookbook for years and years, and I just don't know that I'm ever going to get to the point where I do a cookbook, but I think maybe I might do a gardening. I don't know, or maybe it will be a cooking and gardening thing. I just kind of write down my notes, and there's piles everywhere, who Charlie will testify of this, that, and I've got to have this book and look this up, and it's just kind of a ongoing creative process.
We live a diverse life in a lot of ways. We try to live as simple as possible, but we want you to come along with the journey with us.
We have fun mostly, but we've seen hard times. We've seen some hard times, and we've had health scares, we've had deaths in the family, we've had just lots of crazy things that have happened, and at the end of the day, we know that God has blessed us.
Yes. And
we know that no matter what 2021 brings, God's got us, and we're going to do the best that we can.
We're going to make it.
Yep, because we're growing a good life in Appalachia. That's it for Friends Drift In. Catch you next time.